Baker Mayfield went onto a podcast called the You Never Know podcast, You Never Know, by Mike, a guy I know very little about. I think he makes music. I was actually impressed, by the way, with how he hosted the show. Like, he's a very good conversationalist. I really liked the podcast they did, actually. Now, a lot of people, I have no doubt, because I follow, I'm on social media. Like, I see what people say about stuff. I see their clickbaity headlines and all this stuff, and a lot of people jumped on and attacked Baker Mayfield for these two specific quotes that we'll get into. I got to tell you this. I listened to the entire 1 hour, 32 minutes, and 54 seconds of that podcast, and I found myself rooting for Baker Mayfield, actually. Like, if you listen to the whole thing, I don't know how you don't walk away liking Baker Mayfield a little bit more, actually. I thought he came across as a grown-up. I thought he was very honest. But I liked what he put out, actually. Believe it or not. I've seen people attacking him, saying all this stuff, even friends of mine, and I'm like, either we watched something different or you didn't watch the entire thing. You just watched a couple sound bites because, first of all, I think people forget, and we got to hear a little bit of Baker's story. He's got one of the most compelling college football stories of all time, a two-time walk-on who went on to win a Heisman Trophy and become a first-round pick. Like, Baker Mayfield's story is incredible. He's a guy who walked on to Texas Tech, was incredible as a true freshman walk-on, and their starting quarterback, didn't get a scholarship, had to go to Oklahoma, couldn't start football there immediately, couldn't even tell them he was going there, like, couldn't talk to the football staff until he was already on campus. It's an incredible journey he went on to become the notable quarterback he is today. Like, Baker Mayfield very easily could have been so many other walk-on quarterbacks who go to school, kind of don't really do anything, and are like a sixth pick on the depth chart, sixth quarterback on the depth chart, and do nothing. Baker didn't do that. He's kind of the walk-on dream that when you walk on, you hope you become, which is a guy who makes a college football playoff, wins a Heisman Trophy, number one overall pick, and that's all because his dad was encouraging him to walk on. He actually had a scholarship offer when he left Texas Tech to go play at East Carolina with Lincoln Riley, and he said, I'm going to go to Oklahoma instead. Like, I'm going to really chase my dream here. And I don't know, man. I really don't know how you hate Baker. I'm not going to lie. Like, I just think you're not listening or don't pay attention. I don't know. I think Baker's an easy guy to target, especially when he hasn't played good recently. He's very easy to take cheap shots at. But don't forget the story of the guy, where he came from. He gave a quote. He said that the business of the NFL is kind of a snaky business where you can't really trust anyone. He said an F-bomb in there. I'm not going to say it. And he's not wrong. The NFL is a very hard business. I think he learned that very much during this past year. He gave another quote I like. He said, positive mindsets don't necessarily always work, but negative ones certainly never work. And I'm like, that's kind of interesting insight there. Now, here are the two quotes that everyone took and ran with, and I saw posts on Instagram. Mostly that's the social media I'm really on. The number one quote was, I guess there's two. The first one is this: I would love to show up at someone's cubicle and boo them and watch them crumble, is kind of what he said. He wasn't serious, by the way. That's the thing. People thought it was like a hateful, mean thing. No, he was kind of jokingly throwing it out there and saying people don't realize what it's like to be booed at their job. He wasn't actually saying in a hateful way, I'd love to go to someone's job and screw with them. He's not really meaning that. He's just saying, like, you don't realize what it's like to get booed at your job and how hard it is to handle that. The other quote he gave was that he said, I felt disrespected. I was told one thing, then they, the Cleveland Browns, completely did another thing. And that's honest. And again, the lesson from what happened to Baker Mayfield this past year is do not play hurt. Try not to play through an injury if you can't play at a high level. Baker Mayfield did that. He tore his labrum completely in the front, 90% in the back. His words, not mine. Then he fractured his shoulder on that same side, apparently. Had basically no motion in his left shoulder at all. And the lesson here is, like, he tried to be a hero and play through it and be there for his team and be loyal to his team, which is kind of a college football mindset, right? Like, high school, college, you're there for your team. There's not as much business, at least when he went to college. It's different now in college football, especially. But I think what he learned is that if you play bad for any reason, you will be replaced. And other people watching Baker Mayfield from the outside, whether you're a receiver, a quarterback, a linebacker, whatever, take notes. That's how they treat you in the NFL. If you don't perform, no one cares why. They will happily replace you. I would love to see a world. What would have happened if Baker had sat out for like the entire second half of the year and no one saw him play badly? Would Cleveland have made a move to go get Deshaun Watson? Would they have maybe held on to hope that, well, he was great 2 years ago. He got hurt last year, but he'll be back next year. He'll be cheap, whatever. It's a very likely possibility he would not have lost his job if he hadn't played injured. Another thing Baker talked about that I really like this. He talked about his approach as a leader on whatever team he lands on next. And he said, you can't force it. You can't fake it. He said, all I can do is show up and be myself and earn the respect of the people around me. And, by playing well and with my actions. And not everybody has to be my best friend and like me, but I want them to respect me. And that's something I have to earn. That's what he said. That's very mature. You're totally right, dude. You can't force it. You can't. And he talked about how in Cleveland he felt like when things were bad over the years in Cleveland, he tried to force it as a leader and it didn't work. You have to earn it and be yourself and be natural. I really am telling you, I think Baker has learned a lot through what he went through in Cleveland. It was a roller coaster. He wants stability. He also said he has got no regrets. He gave Cleveland everything he had. I honestly, hearing Baker talk, hearing, frankly, some of the maturity that came through. One thing I didn't know about Baker is that he spent his money financially very well. He's apparently very frugal and very smart, where he's not extravagantly spending money on crazy stuff. Apparently, his words, not mine, he could retire tomorrow and be totally fine, which I'm like, hey, that's a guy who was wise with his money on a rookie contract. Now, rookie number 1 overall pick, but still, he plays now because he loves football, not because he needs a paycheck, which is actually kind of an advantage. Like you're doing, his next opportunity is for him to get a shot and prove himself, not for the money, which is very exciting to me. And look, I might get hate for this, although I don't really give a flip. Like at this point in my career, I don't care. I believe in Baker now more than I ever did before, because look at Baker's career so far. Every time he's back into a corner and has to really prove himself. Like when he's an underdog, Baker's at his best. And Baker has never been, I don't want to say never, because he walked on twice at two different colleges, but I'll say this. I think having to prove himself again really will benefit Baker. And I think this weird journey and roller coaster he's been on the last couple of years in Cleveland, it's very clear from the way he talks about it, he learned from all of those hard moments. So you don't really ever have a loss. You have a bunch of lessons you go through. And Baker had a lot of lessons he went through his entire career. And I just don't understand anyone who watched that interview and attacked Baker. I just don't identify with you. And I don't agree with their philosophy on life, maybe. I thought Baker was very honest and very open and very much explaining and talking about the lessons he learned in Cleveland and what he's going to do next. And I appreciate that. I thought it was candid. I thought it was real. I don't think he said anything disrespectful to anybody, actually. And I walked away liking Baker more than ever. And I wasn't expecting to. I haven't listened to anyone else's takes, but I've seen the headlines, the stuff that people are saying on social media, blah, blah, blah. Like, sounds like he said horrible stuff. And then I'm like, oh, he really didn't. He actually said kind of some compelling stuff. And I'm excited for Baker. Whatever's next for him, I don't know where he's going to go. Maybe he'll be the backup behind Tom Brady in Tampa. Maybe he'll go to, I have no idea. Seattle seems like the obvious one. I'm not sure why. I'm surprised Seattle doesn't seem more interested in Baker, although kind of the theory, me and Marcus Whitman were talking about this the other day behind the scenes. Seattle has leverage because they know no one else is making a move for Baker. And Cleveland has to get rid of him. They're not going to keep him on their roster. That'd be weird for their locker room dynamic. And so Seattle's probably waiting for Cleveland to cut Baker Mayfield. But I'll tell you what. I think Seattle's crazy if they don't want to go get Baker Mayfield. Honestly, I think what we saw last year was not Baker Mayfield at his best. And I think Baker at his best, when he's got a fire lit under his belly and he's got something to prove. And then I think, frankly, the lessons he's been through as a leader, the ways he's been challenged to grow, I think he's going to be better than ever wherever he goes next. And so believe it or not, I'm all aboard the Baker Mayfield train, and I very much believe in the guy. Didn't expect to walk away from this interview feeling that way, but that's how I felt. And I think I'm alone in that. Like, I look at some of the takes other people had, like on Twitter and some of the headlines and the articles they shared. I'm like, wow, you guys really hated this interview. And I just didn't feel that way at all. Like, at all. I walked away going like, wow, I respect what you said. I think you learned a lot. And let's see what you do next.